This screencast will hopefully address the questions you had in your email about your read card images method. Let me first begin by creating a new project based on bare form as usual. Now, one thing you may have noticed, I'm using a slightly bigger screen now. I used that very small screen originally because I thought I would be converting these to flash video for use on YouTube or the like, but it turns out I'm just making WMVs, and your screen is big enough for sure to handle this. Um, Another weird quirk I think I mentioned before about this recording software is I can't double click, so I'm going to have to do some things the long way slightly. Okay, so here's our bare form. It's as usual. One thing I want to show you is I found a centering function. So this is kind of nice. I haven't added it to the bare template yet, but I just might. So that method right there will do the obvious thing and put the form in the center of the screen when it starts up. Now I've already copied your method from your email and I'll paste it right here. There it is. I'll need to make a couple of slight changes in order to run this. Number one is your path to your card images, which is kind of a wacky path. My documents, cards, classic cards, very deep directory structure. Not my preference, but I need to change this to Jack because I have it in my own documents folder. And also, I did not convert these to BMPs because, well, for one, there's really no reason to. And number two, ping format is quite a bit superior, I think, to BMP. Variety of reasons. One being it's more universal. BMP is really only Windows. PNG has transparency. It's also compressed. Bitmaps or BMP files are typically not compressed, and it's lossless compression, so that's good for certain images. Maybe you thought you needed to convert to BMPs because of this name of this class bitmap. Really, the bitmap as it appears here is pretty generic. The file name could be a ping or BMP or a GIF or a JPEG, and maybe others. Okay, so what did you ask me? Oh, you asked me, well, I'm not sure if you asked me about this, but let me show you a better way to build path strings. One issue with this, well, you've obviously discovered that you need the double backslash, just like in C string literals, to get one actual backslash. C Sharp actually provides a sometimes handy string literal alternate. If you put an @ sign in front, then nothing is escaped inside the string literal. So in fact I could do that, and I could change all these double backslashes to single backslashes. So in effect the @ mark here just turns off escaping. That's sometimes convenient when you have lots of backslashes. But we're not even going to use that. I'm going to show you something different than that that's even better. Instead of that, I am going to use the fact that my documents is a well-known special folder in a Windows system. There's a object called environment. Let's see. Well, you'll see. I'll build this, and it has a enumeration called special folder. And that enumeration, you can't see the pop-up, but it's showing me things like desktop, favorites, my computer, my documents, and in fact my documents is what we want. Now that's not a string, that is just an enumeration, but I can convert that to a string with another method, static method of environment, called, I believe it's get path, or get folder path, and then you give it this enumeration thing, and that gives you the actual string. Oh, let me get rid of this decorate. Now you can see a little bit more. Okay, so basically that line up here, even though it's not any shorter really, it's just a standard way to get this string up through my documents. So instead of hard coding the actual name of the My Documents folder with the username in there and everything, we get it through this enumeration, and then that pass to get folder path, which actually gets the string name of the folder. Okay, so now we need to glom on the other parts, the cards and the classic cards bit. And for that I'm going to use a class called path. IntelliSense is not recognizing it, which means I probably don't have a using that I need. I believe the one I need is IO. Now you will actually need you'll need system.io to do file IO as well. And you're saying, well, I did file IO and I didn't use that using statement. Well, you sort of implicitly did file IO, but you didn't really do it yourself. You called this bitmap constructor and passed it a file name, which of course did file IO, but you weren't really opening files, reading, closing, all that stuff yourself. When you do end up doing that, which I'm sure you will need using system.io for that. Okay, so where was I? Oh yes, I was going to glom on these directory pieces. So I'm going to call a method that's a static method of the path class, and it's called combine. So it's sort of like string concatenation, only it takes path strings and combines them and handles, double backslashes or non-existent backslashes. In fact, it's not hard coded to backslash. There is a way. Different OSs, as you obviously know, have different file separator characters, path separator characters. Linux, it's the /. Mac, it's the colon. Now I'm not sure if .NET runs on a Mac at all, but it does run on Linux. So it's just nicer to do it this way. And plus it handles a lot of the niggling details, like if there's trailing spaces somewhere, something like that. So I'm going to combine the base file name with cards. So that'll glue these together in a operating system independent path way. Then let me copy and paste that. I'm going to do this a couple times, so grab this, make a couple copies of it, and then next I'm going to glom on, what was it, classic, and then classic cards with a hyphen. So my guess is you still don't trust file names with spaces, even though they're 15 years old. Okay, so now I've basically done in 4 lines, miraculously, what you had once done in 1 line. So quite an improvement, eh? Actually, I think it is. So I'm going to get rid of that. And we need to do something similar down here to glom on the file name. So instead of, let me keep this line for comparison, make a copy of it. So instead of string concatenation, again I'm going to use path.combine. And the first parameter is the base file name once again, and the second parameter is the file name, which is this integer with a .png added to it. Now, This would work fine with the 2-string. It's not really a problem, but I just want to show you the way to get rid of clutter. The long and the short of it is I don't need the 2-string here. And the reason is, even though the left side of this plus sign is an integer, I plus 1, and the right side is a string, seems nonsensical at first, but actually there is a plus operator that does take those two types, and what it does is it converts the integer to a string and then concatenates the strings. So the way it is right there is just fine. May seem a little strange, but it's just, once you get used to it, it looks nicer, it feels better. So that is that, and that should work, except I have not declared this card images array, so let me go ahead and do that. Let's put it up here. What is it? It's a bitmap, card images, and then we need to initialize that in the constructor. Constructor here. Oh, you know what? When I put this center to screen up here, I thought I was in the constructor. You're probably screaming, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. Well, hopefully you are. But if not, no problem. It actually belongs in the constructor. And so does the initialization of this array. New bit 52. Okay, does that compile? No. Bad array declarator. What did I do? Oh, huh. I reverted back a few years back to the C era way. Okay, does this compile? And yes. Does it run? Let's run it. Let's see what happens. Okay, it ran, so I guess it was all fine. Oh, you know what? Except all this code never even got run. And while I'm down here, I meant to take this line out. This code never got run because I never called it. So we need to call readcardimages. There. Okay. Now it should run, and the images should get loaded. Of course, we don't see anything. Let's do a check. I won't print all the cards. Let me just do one card, display it, just to verify that this is really happening. We'll just display the first card. So I'm going to make actually, I don't need it. I don't need this variable there. I'll just make it a local variable. Just make a quick picture box. New picture box. And then I'll set the picture box's image to card image 0. I haven't actually looked at these. I hope 0 is the ace of spades. I'd be disappointed if it wasn't. Oh, and as always, I forgot to add the control to the control list of the form. Okay, build and run. Although I didn't set the location of that card. Well, there it is. That's the ace of clubs. Disappointing. And it didn't display the whole image. I take it that's because the size is wrong. Now I'm surprised that this picture box didn't get its size from the image that was loaded into it. But let me just hard code that and see if that's the problem. I'll set the picture box that size to the picture box picture boxes images size and run that. There we go. Okay, so we really are loading these images. Now that's a little ugly. I might look into this because I don't know why the size would not automatically change when you load it with an image, because this seems natural, but maybe not. Okay, so this works. See, what else did you ask me? Oh, you asked me about this initialization right here. And yeah, you do need to initialize that because this try block, let's see, the issue was you are setting file name in here, but it was complaining, the compiler presumably was complaining that you hadn't initialized it. Well, the thing is, because you're using it down here, the thing is, for all the compiler knows, this try block could fail before this file name actually got initialized. I mean, we can look at this and guess that none of this could really fail, but you know, the compiler's not going to delve into it that deeply. So you really do need to initialize this. What else did you? Oh, and your e.message, you said you used that simply to get rid of the warning that says you weren't using it. Well, let me say something about exceptions. If you don't know what to do, oh, never mind. I was going to say, if you don't know what to do with an exception, you really shouldn't catch it, but you did want to display the file name. You just didn't really want to display this message. I see. Well, here's not a trick, but there's a piece of syntax. You actually don't. If you're not interested in the exception, or rather you're willing to catch any exception and you're not going to reference it, you can actually just leave this naked, and then you don't have to reference e.message. So let's compile that. Okay, that works. Here's the other thing. You probably don't want to exit. You might, but you probably don't. You probably want to return and let the machinery above it exit. But the other thing I want to say is application exit is not typically what you want. If you really want to just, normally you want to do some kind of close so things are shut down properly. I won't go into that right now. If you really do want an abort where you just like bail out totally, application exit really isn't it. Application exit really sends a message, or it puts a message in the message queue to close and so forth. But even trickier in your situation is all we really have is a constructor. From the constructor, we're calling your read card images, and then in the read card images, we're in a try block, and if it fails, we'll end up in this catch block. In actuality, okay, application.exit goes along with application.run. But somewhat bizarrely, you might think at first, application.run hasn't even been called yet because we're still evaluating its parameter, which is this new form. So we're actually in the call stack looks like this. We're in new form, and then that called the forms constructor, which eventually triggered the exception, and then you called application exit. Well, application run hasn't been even evaluated yet, hasn't even been executed yet, so it actually won't work. If you really want to abort, a better call is environment.exit, and that's an old style C-like exit that takes an exit code. So you didn't really need to know all that right now, but just it might help. Okay, so run. Still runs. I'd say we're good to go. Let me take a quick look to see if there was anything else. I can't remember your other questions, but let me see if there was anything else in your function that seemed strange. Not really. I would consider, instead of the naked, okay, what you had before was not naked. What you had before was an exception, which is very generic. You might catch a file, like file not found exception, or some kind of file exception, something more specific than just exception. Even though in reality, probably the only thing that can fail up here is opening that file. But who knows? Maybe something else could fail. And so if something else failed, like uh, this array had not been initialized, an exception would be thrown, and you would report you failed to load some file name. So it'd be very confusing, because really that's not what failed. Something else failed. So you can be more specific about which kinds of exceptions you catch. Anyway, that's it. Any questions, let me know.